Recently, Stardom uploaded Utami's pro wrestling test. As far as I can tell, this is the first one they have uploaded, and I must say I think it's great. I personally have always been interested in that kind of stuff, so whenever we get to see it, it makes me happy. I originally wasn't going to make a video on this because I didn't think I had much to say on it. It's really straightforward, but then someone named DaBookie from Reddit dared me to do one. Whether he was serious or not doesn't matter because it made me rethink if there was something to talk about and make a video on. For those that don't know, I watch every show when it's fully out, but I also watch it with my dad. Sometimes we talk about something and in my mind the topic is finished, but I never shared it with all of you. After watching the pro test, I noticed how the test was perfect to get someone ready for different aspects of being a pro wrestler. This video will be split up into 5 different parts of the test. I will explain what I think each part means and why they would need someone to do these to pass the test. One last thing before I start on the first topic. I personally have no experience with wrestling, and anything I say is purely either an opinion or an interpretation based on my limited understanding of how the business works. So with that said, let's get to the 5 parts of the test that Utami had to do and why she had to do them. In the beginning of the test, Utami is asked to do a bunch of different workouts, each one focusing on different parts of the body. This part is pretty obvious to everyone why they needed to do this to become a wrestler. With any sport or physical activity, you need to be able to do the grueling and tiring activities that each sport requires from you on a daily basis. With basketball and soccer, if you can't run for an extended amount of time, then you can't compete. Some people don't realize that professional wrestling is very taxing on not only your body, but also your stamina. It doesn't look too tiring because it's easy to dismiss it because the fighting part is fake. There's a reason that 60-minute Iron Man matches are such a huge deal in wrestling. It's because it takes insane stamina to do that type of match and have it be interesting and not rest holds for 50 minutes. With this first part of the test, they need Utami to show them that she is physically strong enough to handle the rough and tiring schedule of a pro wrestler. It's evident on the different types of workouts they have her do. They have her work her arms, legs, stomach, and neck muscles to show that her body is physically up to the challenge of at least a short wrestling match. For the first 15 minutes of the video, it's nothing but workout. The next step in the test was having Utami show that she can do some basic rolls and bumps that you would normally find in a wrestling match. To me, this was really interesting because the person they had show her each one was Jungle Kiona, and in my mind, I didn't think of her as that agile. Wrestling is very dangerous. It's why safety is usually one of the main things stressed when working in the ring. If you mess up, not only do you put yourself in danger, you endanger your opponent as well. There are stories of wrestlers being injured throughout the entire history of wrestling, and one of the most common trends is that if someone else is at fault, they feel absolutely terrible about it. A wrestling move, for the most part, depends on the person taking it correctly. If you slam someone down and they don't take it correctly, they could very easily hurt their body. So for this step of the test, Utami needs to prove that she can do the basic maneuvers and bumps to ensure everything done in the ring is at least done in a safe manner. The next part of the test actually really surprised me. At first, I was confused why they would need to be able to wrestle for real. Then it hit me, every time we have seen 2 people in the ring on the ground trying to out-wrestle the other, it has almost looked too good sometimes. I think that they are taught, at the very least, the basics of amateur wrestling, so they can put on a good show for that beginning match hello. I could be wrong here, but from what I could see, they had real amateur wrestling during the test. It seemed too real to me to have been fake. What better way to make grapple submissions and the such much more real seeming than to have a basic understanding of amateur wrestling? In the test, her opponents for this section were as follows: Leo Onozaki, Shiki Shibusawa, Konami, then Natsuko Tora. Utami was able to get the upper hand on Leo, which isn't too surprising since Utami definitely has the size advantage there. She had trouble with Shiki, and Konami was obviously way more skilled than Utami. It's interesting to note the people they chose as her opponents for the test. They started with a rookie, someone who has barely more experience than Utami herself. Then Shiki Shibusawa next, someone who is lanky and agile. Then Konami, one of the most skilled technical wrestlers in Stardom right now, if not the most skilled. Then Natsuko Tora, one of the power wrestlers of Stardom. Each opponent represents the different type of wrestlers you can encounter in the ring: rookie, speed, skilled, or power. It's kinda rare to have someone be something more than one of these things. If you are fast and agile, you most likely aren't very strong. If you are strong and powerful, you would most likely be considered slow. To have Utami go against each one of the most common people in Stardom, it shows what kind of opponents she can work best with, and about where her level might be once she debuts. The next part I split from the amateur wrestling because I believe this here is different. For this step of the test, Utami is then told to have short mock wrestling matches with different people. You can be the best amateur wrestler in the world, but if you can't adapt to pro wrestling, it's not going to look very good. Her opponents for this part are as follows: Jungle Kiona, Momo Watanabe, and Tam Nakano. If there is some special meaning to the opponents chosen for this one, then it is completely lost on me, unfortunately. For this, they chose one power wrestler and two strikers. In my opinion, I think it would have been better to have at least one more agile or speed-based opponent like Starlight Kid or Mayu Iwatani. Either way, this part of the test should be pretty obvious as well, as their intentions are clear. Show us that you can actually do pro wrestling. Now, remember that at this point, she has done everything else in the video before this, so she is understandably pretty gassed, but it doesn't show too much until the last match with Tam. She is very clearly slowing down and unable to go as hard or fast as before. I think under the circumstances, it's obvious that that is expected since she passed the test. Now, up until this point, the only part of wrestling that has been focused on is the physical part. Wrestling is more than just that, though. And that's why I believe the interview at the end served two purposes. The first purpose is to get to know her more, to understand why she wants to wrestle and how important it is to her. Utami's answers here were good from what I could tell. We didn't really get to see any other tests, so I don't know if what she said was considered generic or not. She seemed like she at least had enough passion for wrestling to show that this is what she really wants to do. The second purpose is to have her showcase her promo skills in front of an audience. Promos are a huge part of wrestling, and a show without one would seem lacking. Most people don't watch wrestling to just see cool moves. They go for the characters and stories that give those cool moves purpose. While seeing someone dropkick another person is interesting, what makes it awesome is the reason for the dropkick in the first place. Now, while the second purpose might not be legitimate at all, that's kind of how I took this part of the test. Utami needs to be comfortable talking in front of a crowd, and this is a good way to show that she's at least able to not mess it up. So there we have it, Utami's pro wrestling test. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope we get to see more stuff like this in the future. Wrestling is becoming more and more integrated with upfrontness. People no longer are just okay watching the shows every week. Now people like to know wrestlers' likes, dislikes, how they interact when not in the ring. The back part of backstage politics is becoming more and more observable by the fans who seek it out. All in all, I think showing us this pro test was not only a good idea, but a very good step in the right direction for Stardom.